Hello, everybody, and a very happy new year to you all. I hope you had a lovely, relaxing break over the festive period, and that the ease back into work this week so far has been kind to you. So if you are here watching me live, please do say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. I am in a very cold North London, so I hope where you are it's a little bit warmer. Today, obviously, we are talking about strategy and strategic thinking, and we're going to dive into that topic very shortly. But if you haven't been on one of my lives before, I'm Sarah Archer. I'm a career and leadership coach, and I work with senior women to create the kind of career success that's right for them, either through career advancement, leadership, or change. And I created this series, the Get Unstuck series, because when I was a senior leader, when I was an HR director, it was very, very hard to find the time to think about my personal development, my professional development. And so I thought I'd do these quick 15-minute slots every 2 weeks to give you that space to think about something that's really important to you in either your leadership development or your personal development. And I'm just going to say hello to Sandra, who's near Horsham. Hi, Sandra. Hope you're nice and cozy, not too cold today. And I also have a podcast, Unstuck Unstoppable, where you can also listen to the same topics. So I'd love to know how you feel about strategic thinking. Is it something that feels a little bit uncomfortable? Is it something you're keen to kind of do more of and want more opportunity to do? Is it something you're kind of being putting off? And hopefully today, what we're going to do is just break it down and make it a bit more accessible, because it can feel a bit nebulous, can't it? Someone says to you, you need to be more strategic, or you need to demonstrate strategic thinking. It can be a little bit, what does that actually mean? Hello, hi Del, nice to see you here. So let's kind of unpack why it kind of feels a little bit hard sometimes to kind of engage with that strategic thinking. And there's lots of reasons. So firstly, operations can be your comfort zone because you know you're really good at it, you can deliver, you can implement, you're known as being somebody who's a safe pair of hands, who just gets on and does it and makes your team do it. It's kind of nice to be relied upon to deliver. And also sometimes we feel if we're busy, if we're kind of in the midst of it all, that equals being productive. Whereas strategic thinking might feel like, well, I'm just going to go off and do some thinking. That's not really producing anything, is it? It's not tangible in the same way. And so we kind of get sucked into staying in that operational comfort zone. And maybe early in your career you were rewarded for being a doer as well, and so it's hard to kind of break that mold and break that pattern. But obviously it does have an impact on your career and your career development, because if you're seen as that safe pair of hands, then maybe you're not being seen as a strategic partner. So you're not being invited to those strategic conversations. You're not seen as somebody who can add value around that longer term, bigger picture view. And so that might mean that you're being passed over for opportunities. It might mean that promotion doesn't come your way because you're just not seen as that strategic contributor. And so what we want to do is just enable you to engage with that, but also to be seen to be engaging with it. And sometimes there can be some mindset issues to work through as well, because you might tell yourself, well, I'm not visionary, I'm not a strategic thinker, I don't really know how to kind of access that. And you're kind of labeling yourself as somebody who's not strategic, whereas we could all be strategic. It's just a different way of approaching it, which we're going to break down today. And I've worked with lots of senior leaders who have found that as a bit of a blocker, that they know that they need to be more strategic, that they need to engage with that more, but they just can't seem to create the space and the opportunity to do it. So you're definitely not alone if you're feeling help, I need some way of becoming more strategic and becoming seen as more strategic. So let's kind of think about what actually strategic thinking is. And this might seem a bit basic, but I think sometimes it feels quite vague when we talk about strategic thinking. And essentially, it's the where, and the planning and the operational part is the how. So the strategic thinking is, where are we going? Where's the business heading for? Where do we want to be moving to? And it's that ability to kind of see the opportunities, see the risks, and be able to understand how they impact that where, and positioning your team to meet those challenges or take advantage of those opportunities. It's also being able to understand the patterns and the trends around your area of work and around the business, and be able to make the link between what does that mean then for the longer term if we're seeing those patterns emerging now. So the operational, obviously, we're solving those day-to-day problems, we're making things happen, it's very immediate, it's the how. But the strategic thinking is about solving those bigger, longer-term project problems and understanding where the business needs to be in order to be successful. And we're going to break that down in terms of bigger shifts that you can make to do that. But also you can think of strategic thinking as taking radical responsibility as well. And radical responsibility is where you're seeing beyond your function. So you're able to identify patterns, issues, trends, problems, things going on in the wider business, and contributing to solving or enhancing or taking those opportunities that are wider than just your function. So that's also part of the strategic thinking. I'd love to know if you've got questions so far, then do throw them at me. Very happy to kind of answer those questions. We're going to move now into thinking about 3 things that you can do that will enhance your strategic thinking ability and also signal that you are more of a strategic thinker as well. And they're not rocket science, they're not very kind of complicated, they're quite straightforward. So hopefully you'll be able to take at least one of them away and think, yes, I can do this, I'm going to try this out. So the first one is just shifting from task thinking to outcome thinking. So being able to ask yourself, what is the bigger purpose behind the work that I am doing? So if I'm improving a process, what is the bigger purpose of that for the organization, for my team, for the department, for my function? What am I doing this for? So linking the task to the outcome. So instead of saying something like, I've got to deliver this report for the board, it's actually reframing it as, this report will help the board influence this decision, or will help them make this decision. So just being able to link everything that you're doing or everything that your team is doing to that kind of bigger purpose, so that you're making a shift then in terms of how you're viewing your work, whether it's sitting in an operational, I've just got to deliver this report, or whether it's sitting in your mind in this kind of strategic bigger purpose. And being able to link the task to the outcome will just help that strategic clarity for you and also for your team when you're enabling them to see the link between what the work they're doing and the bigger purpose. So that's one thing you can think about doing. The second thing is just to create some space for strategic thinking, because it doesn't happen when we're overloaded. And this often is one of the biggest challenges for the senior leaders that I work with, is actually how do you create some space for strategic thinking? It's not a luxury to have time to think strategically. It's actually essential if you're a senior leader. And so you have to create some new habits that will help you to do that. So obviously, very simply, is blocking out some thinking time. So whether that's once a week or once a month, hopefully once a week, but where you can just have like Friday morning, an hour and a half to just engage with that strategic thinking. And when you do that, there are lots of tools that you can access. Some of these will be definitely familiar with you. They're not unheard of, they're well known. So you can use the SWOT analysis. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats for the particular project or area of work that you're thinking about. Strengths and weaknesses, obviously internal, opportunities and threats external. You can use the PESTLE framework. So political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental lenses on the work that you're doing. Or you could think about engaging diverse perspectives so that you don't get stuck in kind of a groupthink mentality. So if you know you've got colleagues or peers that think differently to you and are quite challenging, you can engage with them around the area that you are working on strategically to get that different input into the work that you're doing. So the first thing is creating some time to enable you to have the space to look at some of these tools if they're helpful. The other thing you could do is to kind of book in regular 10-minute CEO check-ins. And that is enabling you to step into the CEO mindset and think about, if I was a CEO, what questions would I want to know about this particular project or area of your work? And it might be very quick things around reviewing the goals. Where are we with delivery of this? What are the roadblocks? Are we on time? Are we on budget? What are the improvements we need to make? What are the learnings? So that you are lifting yourself into kind of thinking strategically about those, not in terms of the operational, but where are we in terms of our roadmap for this particular area of strategy. So just booking regular 10 minutes, they can literally be 10 minutes CEO check-ins. And that also means you're prepared if you're then asked those questions by the CEO or a member of the senior leadership team. So that's our second thing within this area. Then we can also think about saying no and getting comfortable with saying no. So if your team or other areas of the business are kind of trying to pull you into the operational, then it's getting comfortable with saying no, not yet, or being able to delegate that to a member of your team rather than going to your comfort zone of, yes, I can sort this out really quickly. I'll just do it now and I can tick that off and feel productive. So there is a mindset piece there around just being more comfortable with saying, no, that's not my priority at the moment. I need to be working on this strategic piece. Then our third area is just to start asking more strategic questions, and very simple questions. And these can be questions you ask yourself, but they can also be questions that you ask at senior meetings or meetings that you're going to. And they can be simple things like, what problem are we really trying to solve here? What are the long-term implications of the decision that we're making? What would success look like in 12 months if we take this approach? So those very simple big picture questions, but then also it's really listening to the answers that you are getting and not jumping straight to fixing mode, solution focused mode, but having that space to just really reflect and think about, okay, what are the actions that we need to take then to move the dial on this piece of work? And these questions just start to shift your thinking. They also position you differently at those meetings when you're asking those more reflective, big picture questions. So those are three simple things that you can do. So shifting from task to outcome thinking, creating the space you need for strategic thinking, and start just experimenting with asking more of those big picture questions, both of yourself, your team, and the other leaders that you are working with. And obviously there's got to be benefits for you doing this. But obviously, the more you do this, the more you'll be seen to have influence and credibility, the more you'll be seen as someone who shapes direction, not just delivers. And there'll be more opportunities for you and more recognition for you and for your team as a strategic contributor. And by creating that space to do that strategic thinking and engaging with it in an in-depth way means that you will move from overwhelm to clarity as well, because you'll really understand where you're trying to take your piece of work, how it's going to contribute to the business, and how you can contribute wider to the business as well. So just to give you a little illustration of this, I was working with a senior leader last year. She was a director of operations, so naturally she was pulled into the operational work, and she really wanted to be seen as more strategic by her peers on the senior leadership team. And so what we did was we kind of unpacked the strengths that she was bringing to that team, and what she identified as one of her key areas was around efficiency. She was super hot on trying to make systems, processes, the way things worked more efficient. And she felt that she was seen as a blocker. She was seen as someone who kind of brought things down, put things in the way, and she didn't want to be known as that. So she wasn't really utilizing that strength that she had. And so we repackaged it so that she was taking more of a strategic view to that efficiency strength, and actually asking those questions around the bigger picture in terms of how can we make this process more efficient so that it supports the delivery of the business outcomes. And so she started to just take that efficiency strength to the next level, and it paid huge dividends both for her but also for the senior leadership team in terms of having that strength front and center in terms of their strategic planning. So hopefully that's given you some food for thought. Hopefully there's one thing you could take away and put into place. I am going to ask you a question. So where rather do you want to be more strategic in your role this month? Because it's quite good to be focused in January. It's a great month to kind of harness energy and think about what do I want to do differently. So where do you want to be more strategic in your role this month? And what's one thing you can do that would really signify that you are moving the dial on your strategic thinking in your role? So if that comes to mind now and you can give me an answer now, pop it in the comments. I would love to know. If not, do message me and let me know. I would love to know what's one thing you're going to do differently this month that's going to signify that you are engaging in strategic thinking and that you are committing to be seen more as a strategic thinker. Because remember, strategic thinking isn't about having the loudest voice. It's about asking better questions, seeing the patterns and seeing the bigger picture. So I hope you found that useful. It's lovely that you could join me. Thank you. I know Sandra and Del are on live, so thank you very much for joining me. Sandra, lovely to see you too. And I'll be back in 2 weeks with another topic, so please do join me then. And like I say, do let me know how your strategic thinking develops over the next month. Have a great rest of the week.